here's the story. She was like, there was a man who was a very hard-working construction worker. He was a builder. And he used to build some of the most gorgeous, beautiful houses for some of the most wealthiest of people on the earth. His boss absolutely loved him because he was his best employee. He did the best finishes, and he was always the foreman hired to oversee construction work. And this man worked for 30 years by the sweat of his brow, investing all of his might and fever in these projects, these buildings. Then he reached his retirement age, and he was now to go home and rest. He had spent his entire career building homes, fancy ones for the wealthy. And just before he retired, his boss was like, Jimmy, let's say his name was Jimmy. Just before he retired, he was like, Jimmy, I know that you are retiring, but I want you to embark on one last project. One last project, Jimmy. And I want you to build in this project the most beautiful house of this size with this many bedrooms that you ever can possibly build. I want you to procure the best materials for it. I want you to bring your best men on it to help you along. And I want you to do the best finishes. Everything must be to the T, pristine and absolutely perfect. This will be your last project and I will pay you handsomely for it. Just one last job. Jimmy, will you do that for me? Jimmy, all exhausted on some, I was about to go and retire. This guy, is he serious? He is still out here plundering my hard labor. I'm tired. But then outwardly, Jimmy tells his boss guy, fine, okay, I'll do it for you, boss, I will. You've been good to me all these years. You've paid me well. My family's fed because of you. My children went to school. So I will build this one house for you. But Jimmy, unbeknownst to the boss guy, was exhausted and embittered even by the fact that he lives in this lowly home with his wife and children while he has been building homes for the wealthy. And so bitterness basically caught up with him that how am I retiring to this shack, this meager dwelling premises? How am I retiring to this lackluster environment while I spent my whole career building homes for the wealthy? And with that attitude, Jimmy went on right ahead to basically disregard the instruction of his boss guy. Instead of hiring the best of his men, he just got one or two random dudes in these streets that could help him quickly do a job, like just get it done, over and done with, like real fast and furious. So he did not get the best of his construction employees that very potentially. He did not get the best of his construction employees that could very potentially make it clear or highlight, when half a job is being done, when the foundation is not being dug properly, when, he hired men on the job that would be happy to also cut corners. Not only did he do that, in terms of procuring materials, he did not want to wait for the amount of time that it would take for him to perhaps order marble kitchen tops. And then they say that it's going to take 6 months for them to be available. He didn't want to wait 6 months. So he went and got some makeshift look-alike marble countertop table. What is this? A kitchen top. It's not really marble, but it looks like marble. We can get fake marble. The boss won't know. His taps, instead of getting proper gold because it took too long to order, or he would have to travel to a particular destination to order them, he went around the corner to, the nearest little builder's warehouse and just got whatever he could instead of procuring them from the best of suppliers that he could find in this city that he was living in. Jimmy then went on right ahead to get to work, built this house in super record time with the worst men that he could ever hire on the job, and finished it, and outwardly it looked beautiful. But the taps that were supposed to be made with real gold were fool's gold. The marble kitchen tops were not really marble. The particular wooden oak finishes weren't really that. You get my point. Whatever could be the raw materials that are used in order to build a high-end, top-class home, he got second grade, if not third grade materials. Top of that, the workmanship was lackluster too, because, him and his boys were cutting corners. And lo and behold, I bet you can tell where this is going. When the house was then built and finished, his boss was like, Jimmy, thank you so much. You've been one of my best employees, and I'm so grateful for all the effort that you put in. You have made me a wealthy man because of the homes that you have built for my clients. So, congratulations, this is where you are retiring. This is your home. Gave him that poorly built mansion that would have been his home for the rest of his retirement days, that would have made more spacious rooms for his children and grandchildren and wife and all that jazz. but he knew that he did second grade work, shoddy workmanship, and brought in the worst of his builders, and it's basically on shaky foundation. And he was going to leave that for his boss later to deal with when his client is now complaining of snags and all different kinds of things because the construction project was not properly executed. Jimmy's regret was voluminous, you would imagine. He cried, mourned like a baby. And when he was mourning and crying like a baby, his boss thought that those were tears of gratefulness. His boss thought that those were gratitude tears, like crying when someone, oh, you gave me a mansion. Like all those people crying when Oprah gives them cars. You, a car for you, a car for you, a car for you. Yeah, this man got a mansion. And he cried, and his boss was like, don't cry, Jimmy, this is for you. It was an emotional moment with the boss not knowing that Jimmy's crying because he botched the job that would be his present. You know, when Mrs. Bierkus told us that story in grade 7, I was like, whoa, I don't ever want to be a Jimmy. She was a really great storyteller, so she really grabbed us, like she attached our attention to every last word. We were hanging on to it, and it was like dead quiet in the class, and some of us were crying at the end of it on some, oh, Jimmy, wish she hadn't done that. This is so sad because you worked so hard. You worked so hard all those 30 years only for you to get a poorly built house. How could you do that to yourself? Yeah, I will never forget that story. And that story, I guess, was the basis or motivation or foundation for why it is that every time in my particular life when I wanted to give up, I remembered that what if this is my Jimmy moment? And you know what, guys? I have been promoted in the past at the precipice of disappointing, like Jimmy. How it is that I got a project management promotion when I was working at MTN was indeed through an almost Jimmy moment. When I was working for MTN, okay, so before working for MTN, I worked for Kijima, and at Kijima, I was a project manager intern, like I was a trainee project manager, right? But I had not gotten enough training on the job or experience on the job for a company like MTN to be prepared to interview me for a project management job. So I had only like 1 year project management experience, and MTN wanted people with like years and years and degrees and what have you. So the recruitment agency recommended me to MTN, but MTN didn't want to call me for the project management job because I was under-experienced. However, the man that will ultimately become one of my bosses was like, we'll see her because the recruitment agent keeps on hammering it down my throat that we must see this girl because she likes her. So the recruitment agent, kudos, shout out to her, really pushed my case to a point of annoying these people enough to see me. Literally 10 seconds into the interview, like just shortly after, tell us about yourself, I got stopped like, dead break, by these two people interviewing me, a man and a woman. And the man was like, look, Karabo, we like you. And as you are interviewing right now, you're well-spoken. You can give us all the right answers about project management. And you probably will do well in the interview. But at the end of the day, you still don't have enough experience. We can't just let you hit the ground running just because you were, able to articulate yourself as to what project management is about. However, we like you. And you will have a future in project management. Are you prepared to come on board as an administrator, like a program coordinator? And then after 6 months, once you've proven yourself, then maybe you can start to see if you can't, find a project management opportunity in the organization. We don't want to let you go. You came highly recommended by your recruitment agent, and as you're speaking to us now, we also like you, but we can't just go out on a limb and trust that you're going to be good peoples. And actually do the job well with this little experience. We would like to retain you at MTN, but not in the position that you're presently applying for. And then he also guaranteed me that I won't be taking a pay salary because anyway, at Kijima, it was a contract job that if at all they would make me permanent, I was going to earn a lot more. So what they offered me at MTN within that coordination space was even more than what it is that I was earning as an intern or trainee project manager at Kijima. So I did not take a pay cut, and that for me was incentive enough. I was like, okay, fine. I am going to work in an environment where it is that they're going to be happy to train me, and I will then ultimately in due season get promoted. So I took the job at MTN, and my future boss that convinced me to take this demotion, he ran me around in circles, twisting in the wind for not 6 months, but 2 years. He told me that after 6 months, you will get promoted to project manager, or you will vie for project management. You will apply. You will basically be put in a position to have proved yourself enough for us to consider putting you in project management. And he literally said to me 6 months. He said 6 months. That man deceived me. Him and that woman. They both deceived me. And I was like, okay, I thought I was going to be doing this for just 6 little months. A year tops. 2.5 years progressed. And I was still a program coordinator. I had done everything that I could do. I had shadowed a project manager. I had done a professional track. When you know, when you are trying to build a professional track to get to another position, I forgot what it's called, but a career building KPI, I forgot the terminology for it, but that thing that you do to say to your boss, this is what I want to be in 2 years, and what you're doing to work towards it. I had done all that and taken all the steps in order to get there. I had not only shadowed one PM, but a lot of them, and one of them even took me under his wing. Yeah, like attending his meetings and everything, essentially sometimes even standing in for him when he's not available. I was like basically half PM, half program coordinator. And I did this grinding like a dog. Like I felt like I was carrying a cross, do you understand? Even though I wasn't born again, in the blazing sun all the way to Golgotha, and I imagine that this is career suicide. Like I'm never gonna get to where I want to get. People kept on getting hired anew. Vacancies kept on getting opened for project managers, and other people kept on saying, I was like, hey, yo, labantu badlalanga. And I got disillusioned. I was like, they're playing games, these ones, dangerous ones at that. I got so disillusioned, and I don't know how many times I applied to leave MTN, to outside, right? I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to get out and go somewhere where they're going to give me an opportunity. And I knew that if I left MTN, I was definitely not going to be leaving into a project management job, because I couldn't only apply for a project management job as a project manager. I can't just go somewhere and be like a project manager, you know, having been an administrator before. They're just gonna be like, sorry, why are you applying for this job? You're not appropriate for it, even though I had 1 year project management experience before. I'd taken all the courses, I'd done PMBOK, the project management knowledge, body of knowledge, all that. I had done it all, yo. Yeah. And I was out here having these bosses. I had 3 bosses. I was out here dealing with these 3 bosses of mine. Like it was a senior manager and 2 program managers. These 3 bosses of mine just watching me dilly-dally bounce around on the spot on a beach ball going nowhere. And I got so disillusioned, guys. So disillusioned that I started to literally low-key drop the ball. I was just doing enough. Like, I would go to work on some kifikile. I've clocked in. My access card is registered on the system. Open the laptop. Enter. Send email. Do what I need to do during the day. Chill in the coffee shop for half an hour longer. Like, I was basically just annoyed, irritated with my 3 bosses because they knew what I wanted and they were wasting my time. I was like, Wena, I see you. All you want is for me to be your administrator for life. You like me, it's clear. For life. You want me as your administrator for life because you trust me. But at the expense of my career, you trust me. You don't want to let me go. Hey? You don't want to let me go. And so you're going to keep me an administrator for 5 years just because you don't want to have to go and retrain another person. I see you. I was embedded, and the project managers. The project managers that I used to serve, that were part of the teams. I get it, there were program managers who had project managers underneath them. And then there was their boss lady, the senior manager, who was my line manager. So I used to administrate the team's project management office thing, me and 2 other program coordinators, because the senior manager lady was running teams of program managers, and each one of us coordinators had 2 program managers teams to deal with, and these 2 program managers had teams of project managers underneath them, and we would administrate 2 teams of program managers with project managers underneath them, but we all reported into the senior manager. So we were her kids, you know? Yeah, type thing. However, we served her subordinates. We served her program managers and their project managers. Attitude. Oh, guys, attitude. You know, my ting. Attitude that I used to give sometimes, especially Monday mornings. Yo, don't give me mornings. The attitude that I would sometimes give to these project managers. Some of them I would look at them on somewhere, nah, I can do better than you. Because you're lazy. Because I had access to their workflows, I had access to their projects. I had access to their work ethic. Like when they dropped the ball on health checks and whatnot, I knew which project manager basically was just sacked. I knew which project manager was bad at their job because they were making my life a living nightmare in terms of fulfilling the demands or the needs of my bosses. My bosses who were the program managers and the senior manager. They had KPIs to meet, and I knew which project managers were basically weighing everybody down. And I would look at these project managers that give me a hard time as an administrator in meetings sometimes, and how they would give all these excuses for what it is that they were doing or not doing. And I would be like, it's so much. I'd be like, look how lazy this one is. That one, always dropping the ball. That one never gives me what I need on time. That one never updates their project plan. That one never has their documentation in order. You should look at their documents empty inside SharePoint. That one, they ever took in my mind. I was just looking at all of them. Deep down inside, I was just like, oh, Fuchi, they're not as good as I could be. Attitude. I didn't know Christ, so I had that kind of attitude going for myself. Like I did not brittle my flesh or guard my heart, none of that. I was just running with the flesh, and I would look at these guys on something like, Bona, you're not even that good. I had just like a attitude vibe going. And that passive aggression oozed. It was clear. It was obvious. It like not obvious in an obvious, but it was obvious but it was like low-key, subtly obvious in a way that wasn't also. I was embittered clearly, but I did my enough, right? The enough that I gave was good enough. It was loved. I was liked. What I'm trying to explain is that my bosses liked me, even though they knew I was not giving my all. And one boss, the very one that was at the first interview that recommended me to the boss lady, that made me the boss lady's program coordinator, one of the boss lady's program coordinators, the one that lied to me about 6 months. Yeah, he was one of the bosses. One appraisal. He said to me, I told you guys that like this thing was subtle, but it wasn't. I still was pulling my weight, but not nearly as well. It was pick-upable. If you were smart enough and tuned in enough, you would pick up Buguti, I'm embittered. Okay? Yeah. One time that boss guy, the one that lied to me about 6 months, and I'm sitting here still in this job 2 years later. Yeah. One appraisal, he says to me, he's like, Karabo, we really like you. We really like you, but how can I describe you? He even literally looked into the sky to find the right analogy. He was like, you are like a still, quiet lake. One end. But on the other end, you're like a raving volcano. He was like, you're like a still quiet lake on one end, and it's tranquil and peaceful and easy to work with, but on the other side, you're like a raving volcano. So that ambivalence in me, where it is that I was working because I had to gather a salary, and I was working because I was working, that was delivering enough fruit for him to see a still quiet lake, but there was so much ambivalence and irritation and anger, obviously, and disquiet and a lack of job satisfaction in me, that I was then on the other side also like a ravenous volcano. And I was like, oh, and when he said that, I knew exactly what he was saying. He used that metaphor and did not go and explain it even deeper. I understood immediately because I did have that ambivalence. I knew about it. I was angry, and I was actively applying for jobs outside of MTN, and the only ones that responded to me were trying to get me to do jobs that I imagined to be dead end. And so I stayed at MTN because I'm not about to go and move to another dead end space. So I stayed and I stayed and I stayed and I stayed, and I was unhappy, I was disquieted, I was sad, I was a still quiet lake and a ravenous volcano in one sitting. And this happened for 2 years, and that it was so bad that one time what you call it, not one time, sorry, but like it was so bad that some meetings, especially if they were morning meetings, I would have a passive aggression in the meetings to a point where I remember one time my boss calling me after the meeting ended and she was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Why? She's like, "No, because you were very quiet at the meeting." I was like, "Yeah, no, I was just listening to you and the program manager speak. After all, I am the administrator. I don't generally need to speak very much. Just kind of listen to your instructions and effect them. I'm fine. I'm okay." She's like, "Okay, now it's just checking in. That's all." Yeah, it was easy to pick up. It was easy to pick up that I was unhappy, and they knew why. They knew why. They knew why I was unhappy. I was just being dragged through the mud. It was going to take 10,000 years for me to get to where I wanted to get. And all these vacancies that were being made available open, they were not even trying to interview me for them. How long must I acquire all of this experience before you will give me the opportunity that I left project management for in another company in order to work here at MTN? You demoted me and you told me that all I need is 6 months. And here it is that I'm still here 2 years later. So I was really bitter. I was really bitter in a way that was just overt. It was clear. Okay, but like I didn't drop the ball. I didn't underperform, but I certainly did just enough. I was merely just gliding by. And that gliding by was enough for, like I said, my bosses to like me, but they were possessive. Is that basic? They were possessive. They wanted to keep me so they don't have to, I guess, interview again and whatnot. They were possessive, frankly, of all of us, okay? Yeah, and I was just not feeling any of that. I was not trying to hang out in one job for like 10 years. Like, I'm not doing it. Yeah, whatever. I'm in this situation. And then one of the program managers that I did not serve under that one in particular, right? But one of the program managers gets promoted. He goes and becomes a senior manager in another department. And so there's like a vacancy for a program manager, right? And one of the project managers underneath him, right, applied for that job and successfully interviewed for it. So a project manager got promoted to program manager, filling the vacancy of the man that moved to senior management somewhere else. Okay, cool, beans and bananas. He starts working. We're like, "Congratulations for your promotion. You deserve it. Hallelujah. Amen." Okay. He's working now under my boss lady as one of her program managers, alright? And my boss lady gives him a project to do as his subordinate. And that project has something to do with consolidating a certain work field, a certain workflow process that would need the assistance of all of the program coordinators. It would need the assistance of all of the program coordinators, okay? In the department altogether, and I was one of them. In the beginning, there were 3 of us program coordinators, but as the years progressed and they did reshuffling of structures, we ended up acquiring like I think 3 more. So nearly, or 4 more, so nearly like 7 or something. There were like 7 of us program coordinators scattered across multiple project management teams and program management teams. Okay, cool, beans and bananas, right? I was one of the OG program coordinators. And so, and also the most trusted. He went and asked, "Who's this?" The boss lady on some, "Okay, this project that I am hooking up, that you want me to do, that's going to consolidate these workflows for our teams. You want me to work with program coordinators. Which one do you recommend I check in with first, tap on the shoulder of first?" And this boss lady was like, "Karabo, go to Karabo, definitely Karabo." Like, Papa, like I was out here passing so much shade to these people, right? I was obviously angry. Like, why are you wasting my life and my time? Why are you wasting all my skills? Why are you wasting my excellence in this like deadbeat job? What's going on with that? But despite me having that attitude, I was trusted. She liked me clearly and trusted me clearly the most, to a point where when this gentleman that had newly gotten this promotion asked, out of the program coordinators, who can I ask to, perhaps help me spearhead this thing, like commence it, like the project to consolidate these workflows? Which of the program coordinators can I trust to lead this in a way that is successful, that's going to consolidate everything in one bunch? And my boss lady was like, "Karabo." Like, she did not hesitate to give my name. And so when this dude tapped me on the shoulder on some "Karabo, can I have a meeting with you?" I was like, "Sure, like, hit me." Alright, so I have a meeting with him, and then he gives me this job, right? And guys, when he's speaking, I'm not outwardly now with a grandiose amount of attitude, right? But I am low-key in my heart and in my mind, squinting my eyes, I'm squinting, I'm rolling my eyes. I'm like, ugh, why me? Like proper, I had that why me attitude. He calls me into this meeting by myself. I'm like, why didn't you call all the program coordinators and ask them who wants to head this machine? What makes you think I want more on my plate than I already got? Hey, what's wrong with you? That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it. I'm not acting it out yet, okay? I got attitude. You're like, attitude. Alright? This man is, I'm sitting with him in this meeting room, and inside I'm grinding my teeth. I'm gnashing them like hell. Yeah, deep down, I'm gnashing my teeth. He's out there giving me more work than I need. He's out there giving me more work than I frankly am prepared to take in my stride. I'm disillusioned. I'm disquieted. I'm unhappy. I've been left in a job for like 10 years, okay, 20 million years, going nowhere when I was supposed to be in it for just 6 months. I'm obviously, I'm like, I'm oozing, I'm giving. I'm out of the door. I've got one foot out. Y'all know I got one foot out the door, right? I'm giving. One day I'm going to hand in my resignation. I have got that going, and it is felt. But they're writing me out. They are writing out all that attitude, okay? Because despite it, apparently, allegedly, I still was the best. I was still a top performer or whatever. So they kept me. And here it is that this man has been told, if you want somebody to spearhead a project, go to Karabo. And I'm now sitting in front of this man out here asking me this big favor. I now have to go and gather all the program coordinators and start to basically motion his project and bring it to fruition. This thing that he has been given as a responsibility, he has decided to put me as head of it. And I was like, do you know how much I earn? And on top of that, you know how long I've been all up in this gangster job? Okay? And do you know how under heaven I just ain't feeling the fact that I was told I was only going to be in it for 6 months? And do you know how it is that I'm still going to be here after 10 years? And you want me to do more than what is absolutely necessary? Is that what I'm getting from this interaction? You are asking me to do more? For real? Ezzy, I was so irritated with that petition, but I didn't show it. This man is out there asking me this job, right? And I'm like, okay, sure. I'm taking notes with a big smile. All right, when's your due date? What are you, okay? What are the expected KPIs out of this? What are the deliverables exactly? Okay, all right. Okay, now I'll schedule a meeting with the coordinators and then we'll get this started, hitting the ground running. Okay, I'll let you know. I'll give you feedback. Alrighty, cool beans and bananas. I tell this new program manager guy that fine, I got it. Alright, and it's work. You can't not do a job that you're given. You can't ignore a job that you're given, because then that's insubordination, right? But I was so lazy for it, and I was so disillusioned still, for all the reasons I've highlighted above, that I just felt like you're adding more to my plate than is absolutely necessary. But whatever, I'll do it, okay? I commence this thing, we do it, I lead it, I finish it, I deliver for this man all the way to the end. I made a decision at that instance. Like I told you guys that I have been like Jimmy. I've been like Jimmy, where it is that this gentleman, all along I've been working hard and it's been yielding no fruit. It's been bearing no fruit, okay? I've been working hard, it's been bearing no fruit. My grumbling on the job, my disquiet and my irritation did not make me drop the ball. I still worked as I ought to have worked. I did not, however, work at the height I was supposed to work. I could have done a lot more excellently, but I didn't. However, my 50% or my 60% was so good that my boss recommended me to the gentleman, right? And liked me a lot, the most, I would imagine. I think I was her favorite. In spite of the fact that I was obviously ambivalent about what's going on over here, okay? I, however, got to a point of so much disillusionment that I now wanted to merely just kind of swing on a hammock. Like, I just wanted to get through the day. I wanted to put my talents in the ground. That's what I'm getting at. I wanted to stop working. Like, I just did not want to do more. Because why? What's the point? They're just going to keep me in the same job forever. What I need to do is leave MTN. I imagine that the only way out of this was to leave MTN. Because I was never going to be given the right opportunity type establishment thing. And then this new man gets promoted, then gets told to use Karabo to spearhead. He then takes the council and then do the project for him. It's like when this man was asking me to do this for him in the meeting, I was already thinking, this is too much, Wambora. However, not so much however, as a result of him, I wanted to drop the ball, and many times during the project that I was spearheading with the program coordinators, I wanted to drop the ball. I wanted to not give him feedback. I wanted it to drag out like many other projects always drag out at MTN. Something's supposed to last for 2 years and we are just still chilling on it in 5 years' time. Yeah, I wanted it to be something that, is taking time, and keep on giving him feedback along the lines of, we're not yet there because these are the challenges, these are the chock-a-blocks, these are the bottlenecks, these are the, I wanted to give him one of those, it's MTN, things are slow sometimes in these streets. Go slow sometimes. So, yeah, we'll get it done though, don't worry. I'm on it. I wanted to do that. But I promise you right now, it was the Holy Spirit. It had to have been. I was not even born again at the time. Every time I wanted to drop the ball on that project, I scheduled a meeting anyway. And I followed up, and I pushed it, and I pushed it. I pushed that cart, kisabatli. I was so disillusioned and so annoyed by literally everything. But when I wanted to drop the ball, I didn't. And the thing that made me make a last-minute decision to do better than what I was planning to do was obviously supernatural. It had to have been God, because I was on the brink of insisting on disappointing that new man, that new program manager, because it does not matter. I had told myself that it did not matter if I disappoint him or do well by him, because for 2.5 years it has not mattered that I have either done really well for my bosses or disappointed them. One guy once told me in an appraisal that I am both a quiet, still lake and a ravenous volcano. In other words, I have such moments of excellence that they were worthy of a reward and accolade, and yet I never got the reward or the accolade. So for me, it was like, whether I do well or badly, it brings nothing to the table. It yields no fruit. It doesn't matter. So I was prepared to essentially start off on a bad note with a new program manager. That particular program manager, that project manager, I had never worked with him before because he belonged to a team of a program manager that I was not servicing. I was not servicing that team. So he was never privy even to the attitude that I would sometimes give in meetings to the other project managers that I was administrating under. He never got to see me work because he belonged to a separate program manager. He didn't belong to any of my program managers. He belonged to a program manager whose administrator was another guy. Yeah, so he wasn't, God worked out everything. So he was not privy to how I'm just always so tired with all these project managers, the attitude that I gave in meetings, the obvious ambivalence, the hunger that I had. Like, I was angry because I was hungry for success and I was not getting it. He was never privy to it because his administrator was another guy. Okay, so that literally worked in my favor. The whole time he was under my nose, that man. The whole time he was working around. I knew his name, hello, goodbye, good morning, good afternoon, whatnot, but I never worked with him. The only thing of me that he saw was my creativity, because I was always made to arrange these events and all these weird things. I was just this colorful person, but he had never actually worked with me. Okay, and that helped. It helped because he never got to see the volcano and the lake. He never got to see what other project managers knew I could be. Cheeky, full of bunch of attitude. Yeah. So this man, I was prepared to disappoint him. I was prepared to show him the side of me that really could not care less. I'm here to collect the salary at the end of the month and I'm doing just enough. It's not like I'm not doing my work, but don't expect me to do more. Don't expect me to walk on water. I'm not Jesus. Like proper. I was tempted to give him those vibes. I literally wanted to disappoint him because I imagined that what's it gonna give? Don't nobody care. Nobody does anything with my prosperity in this place. When I do really well, don't nobody reward me. I'm still getting a 5% salary increase, 6% every single year. Like, yeah, I don't care. I wanted to do that. I wanted to keep doing that. But something pulled me to do better. I wanted to make like Jimmy. And do a lackluster project. Not put in the right taps, not put in the right kitchen counters, not put in the right marble tops, not put in the right tiles, not put in the right foundation. I wanted to do what Jimmy did. And it would have been the worst mistake I could have ever made. Because if he had chosen somebody else to spearhead this because I dropped the ball, that would have been the person to get the opportunity. That would have been the person. I decided to pull my weight anyway, even though I was really unhappy with just the extra stuff I have to keep doing. And one day, this man schedules a meeting with me, right? On some Karabo, I'd like to see you for something. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm thinking that he he wants to discuss this thing with the program coordinators and extra stuff that he wants it done, even though I delivered that particular project to fruition to the end, right? And in this meeting, it was just such a massive, pleasant surprise. So I basically put in the right counters, the right finishing touches, the right everything, even though I initially wanted to drop the ball. I wanted to drop the ball, and he calls me to a meeting. I'm sitting opposite him in the meeting like a neat little girl, and he's like, Karabo, you know, with this program coordinator thing that I asked you to do, it was one of my first projects under my boss as a program manager, and it got me rewarded well by my boss. She really liked how I delivered it, and I realized that really if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been able to deliver to her that which made her proud of me as her new program manager. Essentially, I started off on a good note with my boss because of you. And I realized that you have absolutely everything that is needed and that it takes to be a project manager. So I have an open, guys. I'm getting emo just thinking about it. What? He was like, I have an open vacancy in my team, and I have already spoken to my boss, your boss, that I want you to fill that vacancy. I will keep it open. I don't even want to interview other candidates. I want you to fill that position. But the interviews are easy. Before he could even finish speaking, I was like, what? I was screaming in this room, jumping up and down in this meeting room, and I was like, you what? Like, are you what? Like, what? Yo, what? Like, yo, what? Like, yo, what? That's when I was literally out of my mind with shock. I was out of my mind with shock. Like, it came at me like a ton of bricks, unexpected. And I was just like, yeah, this man was out here telling me that this job is as good as yours. We only have to go through the formalities of the interview, but it's yours. I want you to be one of my project managers. Guys, and he had already told my boss that I want Karabo to be my project manager, and my boss this time around was like, I can't be holding on to some people forever, People gotta grow in these streets. Like, we gotta let some people go. So it's okay, it's fine. You can take her. You can take her. She's been wanting to be a project manager. If you want to give her an opportunity, I realized perhaps maybe I might have taken 10,000 years to allow her to move over, because frankly I was selfish for her. She was possessive. She was. My bosses were possessive of me, and it took one of the program managers being like, can I take her? And she then conceded. She was like, fine, you can have Karabo. I guess I'll go and I'll hire someone else. Somebody else will come and be my administrator. It's alright. Okay, fine. She finally let me go. She let me go, and it was frankly because of her recommendation that this man ended up wanting me. But I got the opportunity that I've been waiting for all this time because of the fact that I kept on working hard in spite of wanting to drop the ball, because I imagined, what's in it for? Like, it's just a waste of time. What is the point? Like, what is the point? Why? Nobody rewards me when I do well. Nobody punishes me when I do badly. I'm just out here in limbo. So I'm just going to keep being in limbo. And because the Lord is the one, I believe it was Jesus, it had to have been. The Lord was the one that basically low-key nudged me to do better by this man, because this time he's different. He's not going to be like the other program managers that will sit and bask under the sun of your services and not acknowledge or give credit where it is due. He's not going to ignore the fact that you are good at what you do. He's not going to ignore the fact that you are in the wrong place. It's time now for your promotion. He's not going to ignore it. And so because I pulled my weight, this man motioned everything, and I thought that, just like things happening at MTN, you are to be given a promise in like Jan, and like in September, you still out here waiting for it. You're still waiting for the fruition of the thing they said is gonna happen in March. They give you the promise in Jan, say by March you'll be good, and then in September you're still waiting. Yeah, I thought that maybe this was gonna be one of those things where it is that I would still be waiting that much. For something to give. And no, this man moved so fast with stuff, so fast. Like within 2 months, I was placed as a project manager, but I was not a project manager. My boss took me away from him. You see, the thing about that boss lady is that she knew all along that I was not supposed to. I stayed in that job for longer than what was absolutely necessary. Okay. And it was her fault. And it was also the fault of her subordinates. Her program managers, right? They held on to me possessively. She knew what environment was best for me. She knew what environment was the most fit for purpose for me. Maybe after 4 years, she might have pulled strings to move me there, right? She had told herself that maybe after 4 years, 3.5, I'll move Karabo to be a project manager in marketing type thing. Mara for now, utlo dula fela and bask under the sun of my, like grandiosity. She's just gonna be mine. But then somebody was like, I want her. And she was like, okay, look, I've been hoarding over here. Let me go. But once this man said, I want Karabo to come and work for me, and gave me the job as a project manager. I hugged him, guys. I thanked him. And it's funny. Every time I'd be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. He'd be like, don't thank me, thank God. He was a Christian. Look at that. He was a God-fearing man. I wasn't even saved at the time. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I thank God. But thank you. He was like, don't thank me, thank God. Yeah, I would shortly after that get born again. Did not realize that God was moving all of these things on my behalf through these people. Anyway, whatever. So, once this man interviewed me, like proper, he interviewed me. I was supposed to work for him. Yeah, my boss, because all along she had known that she was hoarding me and she knew where I belonged, she took me from him. I was supposed to report under that man. Yes, guys, if I had been that man's project manager, I probably would still have my career today, because it was the sabotage of people in the team that I was working that got me fired. I would not have been in the front lines of battle, essentially, to lose everything. But anyway, whatever, that's another story for another day. I was taken away from this man at the last minute, and my boss basically placed me in a team that was fit for my suite of talents. It's like she had been looking at me all of these years. She knew that I was a creative, I was eccentric, I was a particular way, and imagined that I would be best fit to go and work as a project manager servicing the marketing department instead of the man was business marketing. So he was marketing but for business, whereas we were consumer marketing. So she put me with consumer marketing because she imagined that was the better fit for me. So I ended up working under another boss, working with different people, because that's where it is that my boss had literally all along, that's what she was planning. She was planning on moving me there, but maybe, like I said, after 4 years. And this was now 2.5 years down the line. She was maybe going to drag me through that heinous maze for another 2 years. She was going to turn me 30, all up in that position, and then be like, okay, Amba. She was possessive. She and the other bosses, and a new project manager, program manager, is the one that ended up awarding me that opportunity. So I ended up working for another program manager. But what I need you guys to understand is that what I'm trying to explain with that story is that if at all I had made a decision to not run, where it is that other people are doing laps around me, if I had made a decision to just walk or not give my all or give just enough, I would have stayed in a job that I didn't like for much longer. Some other person might have gotten the promotion that I got because they would have probably pulled their weight in a way that I didn't. I would have disappointed a man that was put in a position by God to give credit where it is due and award acknowledgement, instead of dilly-dallying, beating around the bush and causing a person to spin on the spot for years. Okay? I was about to go and disappoint the right person. What I'm trying, basically the wrong person, but he was the right person placed at the right time. What I'm trying to explain is that in this world, you're going to get people that are going to delay your breakthrough deliberately, knowing that you're bigger than that, knowing that you're better than that, knowing you deserve to be elsewhere. Also be aware of your ambivalence. Be aware of how hangry you are. Angry because you're hungry. Be aware of what you can do, but absolutely refuse to acknowledge you in that regard. And take in their stride the irritation and the passive aggression that you are walking in. Because at the end of the day, you are beneficial to them. They will hold onto you possessively at the peril or expense of your career or whatever it is that you're trying to do, knowing that you're better. And it will take somebody being raised up by God to take you out from underneath possessive people. Somebody that will ultimately eventually do what is better. And these possessive people will admit that, okay, so I've been hoarding. They will literally admit that they've been hoarding you. And they will let you go when somebody decides to finally acknowledge you. But all along, they will have literally been hoarding you. And that's why you gotta work hard in spite of how long you've been in this grain. And whoever gets brought in for you to do new favors for, new projects for, work heartily as unto the Lord for those people. because you don't know if they are potentially not your olive branch, your breakthrough, the final destination, the person that is going to finally not let you be really good and ignored, the person that will finally give you the job opportunity because they see that it's yours. Yeah, you don't know who, amidst all the plethora of people that could be put in front of your face, are that guy or that girl, the person that is essentially the Pharaoh of Joseph, the person that is essentially the person that ultimately awards a waiting person their deliverance, their breakthrough. You don't know when you have finally met your Pharaoh. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't know when you have finally met your Darius as Daniel in the lion's den, like a person that is going to give credit where it is due, reward you for what it is that you have rightly worked for, and so therefore deserved. You don't know. So that very wise, sage story that my teacher in primary school gave is applicable even in this Christianity that we are walking. God makes it clear, whatever you do, work heartily as unto the Lord. Don't throw your talents away. God is going to call you a slothful servant. So you have a duty to God to work hard, but over and above it, trust that God will himself place the right people at the opportune moment, at the opportune time, to acknowledge you where others have blatantly disregarded that this here is a waste of a person's time. But they don't know that. They don't know that. They don't know. Nobody else knows that I'm wasting Karabo's time. So they will just hoard you. They will just hoard the living daylights out of you. There are people that are going to basically rescue you from being hoarded by possessive people. There are so many people littered across corporate South Africa or everywhere where it is that you might find yourselves that are hoarded by possessive bosses. Bosses that cause you to quit your job to move to another company in order to find a place where you can be able to move. Even though if you had stayed in that company, you would have been promoted in that company. And so therefore, started off from that elevated position, you would have been given that springboard. In order for you, moving to another company, you're starting on a very lofty note. Yeah, but there will have been such barriers to entry to you that you will end up literally leaving a job that was the best environment in which for you to grow. But you left because they just kept you in a grain. Even though you were the one that was training everybody. You were the one that was this and that. You were the one that was the best at this and that. You, frankly, were so trained at the job that you are too inherent in the future, that you are basically teaching even those who do that job their job. Like, you know how it is that I was with project managers, I would look at them on some, when I'm better than you, like people that were dropping the ball like no man's business. I was an administrator and was privy to their work ethic, and I would look at them and I'm like, you're collecting that big fat chunky project management salary, Mara, you suck. Like, you're lax in comparison to many of these other project managers, and in comparison to how I would do if I was a project manager. You are bad. You are not good at what you do. You are not good at what you do, and yet you're the one with the job. Yeah, when you are so ready to do a job that you are already better than people who are already doing that job, and yet people are wasting your time. God knows that, and he sees that pain. He recognizes the fact that there are others who love to hoard people and twist you in the wind until you feel like you have run out of breath. God knows. God knows. And he will raise someone up. I need to use the bathroom. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, alright. Yes, so basically, guy. Yeah, I was speaking about how it is that dropping the ball, first and foremost, it's ungodly, right? We should not do it because that's the throwing away of our talents. God is going to call us wicked and slothful. Whatever we do, we must work heartily as unto the Lord. And whatever we do as well, whether we eat, whether we drink, we must do it all for the glory of God. So it's godly to not be lazy or to drop the ball, but it is also beneficial. You know, the Lord does not merely give instructions if they don't reward you. It is written in his word that God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So when you hold fast to him, he's not merely going to keep you in a grain that is heartbreaking while you just, in a very ascetic fashion, while cutting yourself and beating your flesh into submission and denying your flesh and all that jazz, you're gonna get nothing at all out of it. No, he rewards in due season. Just like it's written in his word that do not grow weary of doing good, but in due do not grow weary of doing good, for in due season you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness if you do not give up. That is what the Bible says. So you will reap eventually. And in the season of your waiting, it's written that God is going to renew your strength. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint, right? That's just the promises of God. You never know when you are dealing with a man or a woman that is going to finally give credit where it's due. Sometimes you are in an environment where it is that literally everybody there is going to ignore the glaring talent that you have. And the only reason why that's the case is because God, for a season, is allowing that situation. And then next thing, boo, somebody will get hired on the job. Somebody will move into your complex. Somebody will move to your gym. Somebody will basically be placed where it is that you are at. That's going to suddenly give you what all this time has been glaringly, obviously ignored as obviously yours. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it happened with that gentleman that got promoted from project manager to program manager. He was a project manager all along and in absolutely no position to award me any job at all. And then one day, the one guy got a job elsewhere, and then the vacancy got opened. He got promoted to that job, and within a matter of months, I was a project manager because of someone that was not there all along. He was not there all along, but that's what God was planning, that somebody else would move in. So do not look around scanning the periphery. Do not merely scan the periphery on the left and on the right of you, looking at literally nothing but naysaying people, naysaying colleagues, people that you know will never do right by you, people that you know will never do anything that is sober and sound. People that you are aware are just gonna hoard you like boxes in a house that is already cramped. And there is nothing you can do. Do not look at your ecosystem panning your head left and right and be disillusioned by obvious saboteurs. People that are obviously never gonna do good by you. Unless they get like a Saul on the road to Damascus moment, meeting Jesus and suddenly getting born again. Unless that happens, you are literally in a deadbeat, dead-end desert zone with a tumbleweed rolling around it and with you seeing nothing but the mirage of your prospective promotion. It's a mirage, and it will only ever stay a mirage until some new dude starts working for your company or a client that is your company's biggest like honcho client guy. When you go and have a meeting at his premises and then he has a conversation with you and is like, how would you like to come and work for me? How would you like to quit that job that you're at and work for me? Because I like what it is that other services that you are offering me. I'll take you. Kana Kwateng Mutwatengi is a client, and it's a new client that has newly signed on to your firm. And he is only working for you now for 2 months. And then he basically snatches you. He headhunts you. He steals you from under your boss because he likes you. This client was not the client of your company a year ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago. He was toggling between giving the job or the contract to another firm. Literally your firm and two other firms were vying for his contract. Your firm wins that contract. And that client is like, hey, how are you? Karabo, how are you, Pinky Mainari Neilwe? Sebo, I really like you. How would you like to quit your job at that company and come work for me? Massive salary increase, big chunky opportunity to finally do what it is that you've been wanting to do all along. Where was this guy 2 months ago? Being basically, headhunted. He was being sought for business by your company. Where was he 3 years ago? Nowhere to be found in the market because he was a startup entrepreneur. Where was this guy 6 months ago when you are applying for a job elsewhere out there because your present company, your present boss does not care to give you a promotion? He was busy petitioning for a company to take on his particular books to either underwrite them if it's insurance or to give them benefits if it's, again, insurance. If it is an IT company, he needs this particular software for his company. Yeah, and he's busy literally scouring the market for an IT firm to provide these services, and you work at that IT firm. 2 months ago, he was looking for this opportunity, and 2 months later, he has chosen your firm, and a month later, he has decided that he wants to steal you from your company. You literally don't know where these guys are going to come from. So don't look at your company and your boss or your colleagues that will never say anything right about you, or just don't look at the dry little desert where you are seeing the mirage of your prospective promotion as the dead end. Recognize that wherever you are placed, God has put you in the right environment. You are perfectly placed. You are perfectly placed. It's written in Psalm 139 that the Lord has set apart every last one of our days in advance before any of them comes to pass. So God knew that you would work in a job that is dead end with a dead end job, with a dead end boss and dead end colleagues, dead end possessive bosses. God knew that you would be there and they would refuse to acknowledge that you deserve the promotion. They would refuse to admit that they keep on making you train some people, even though you're the one that should rather be getting that job. They will just ignore it until, like I said, a new client works for your firm, or contracts with your firm, or they will completely ignore you until something is going to eventually give. That's what I'm getting at. Something will eventually give. So don't look at your desert. Don't look at the Kalahari gawking at you with dust blowing in your face, and your boss just keeps on asking you for the new minutes, the new this, the new that, the coffee, and you are just like rolling your eyes on some, I'm gonna die here, I'm gonna die. Top of that, every job that I apply for out there in the wilderness is a dead end. Like, I'm gonna die here. You don't know who's coming. You don't know who's gonna waltz into that door. You don't know what new colleague is gonna work that is in a senior position that's gonna promote you working for their team. You just do not know. So hunker down, and not only hunker down, work. Like, work. What is important is to work. Don't ever let your work ethic fly out the window, because whatever you do, you ought rather work heartily as unto Jesus Christ. You must work as unto the Lord, not for man. Because the moment you think that you're working for man, you're going to feel like you're squandering my skills. You are using me. You are ironing me flat like a shirt. You, I see you. You just want me to be here for 10 years. You will literally look at your boss as, uyazi ukuthi ngazi wenzani. Kodwa ngeke.